So it's my huge pleasure today to welcome to the Academy Homa Games. It's Olivier Le Bas, co-founder of Homa Games, one of the biggest mobile publishers in the universe right now. So really thrilled that he spent some time with us today. So without further ado, Olivier, welcome to the Academy and thank you so much for joining with me today.
No, thank you. Thank you, Kevin, for having me.
No, we're big fans here. As we were just talking before we press record, we're big fans here. We played a lot of your games inside the Academy. But before we go into all of that, tell us a little bit about Olivier. What's your background and how did you come around starting Homa Games and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, sure. Again, thank you so much for having us, Homa, today. I'm Olivier, I'm French. We basically have been working in the advertising industry on mobile and also mobile content for 6 years now. I've been doing that in the US for a company called Dailymotion and Ecolocation. And then I moved back to Paris, and this is where I met the two other co-founders, Daniel and Juanjo. And this is where actually we decided to create this company, Homa Games. And actually the first point and why we wanted to start and kickstart this journey was mainly due to the fact that we've seen straight from the beginning and kind of revolution on the way we were building content and mobile games. Tools such as Unity or maybe Buildbox let you, everyone in the world, actually create a game under now like a couple of weeks, couple of days, rather than like 10 years ago, like it was like maybe months or years.
Sure,
so
yeah.
Starting from this point, we really wanted to jump into this business, and this is why actually we created the Homa Games.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, you mentioned your co-founder there from, did you meet Daniel at BidMotion?
Yeah, exactly. So Daniel is actually also the co-founder of BidMotion. Basically, we started the journey really close to BidMotion as a sister company. And when like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we decided to spin off and then to focus our time on and our effort on actually the content and the creation of content on mobile apps.
Yeah, that's amazing. So for anyone who doesn't know, BidMotion is basically an ad network SDK delivering solutions for, generating revenue and getting acquisition essentially. So that's a really solid background for you guys to come in, and it seems like the perfect storm to start off on your own and kind of doing the whole thing rather than just one side of the mobile acquisition. So that's really cool. So how did that come about then? Were you in a bar in Paris and you all drinking away and decided let's do it, or how did that start off?
Yeah, so I think there is one main event that kickstart everything is the fact that Daniel, one of the co-founders, then was traveling a lot into China for a business, and the way Chinese people and the way the business was running there in terms again of creation of content and basically revolution the way the content was creating on mobile apps was, I think, the starting point of everything and what makes us moved and decided to move at some point to this area of the industry. So yeah, there was two years and a half ago, and then we started everything, starting our first games, starting to learn from scratch how to build games, etc., etc.
So did you guys build your own games then?
So at the beginning, we started as a publisher. So we decided to leverage all the learnings and the technologies that we had on via our ad tech background, and basically to provide this to promote the games of the studios that we were talking to. So that was straight from the beginning something we really wanted to value to developers and help them out to actually promote their games all around the world and also on iOS and Android.
So did you, sorry to cut across you there, was that like a cold call? Did you just reach out, or did you have connections from BidMotion? Did you utilize those sort of connections there?
No, actually we started from scratch. So there was just reaching out to developers that would actually fit with actually our value, and then keep iterating and keep learning out of this.
And so did you just go onto the App Store and like reach out to them, find their email and say, hey, do you want you want to give us a shot?
Yeah, exactly. At the beginning, there was more like a conversation to learn. We were very, I would say, humble about the situation where we believed we were experts in ad tech industry, but we were newcomers into the app content creation back in the days. So there was more like conversation, learnings, understanding, and then out of those conversations, obviously some connection has been done, and then some developers stay with us, learning with us, along with us, because as you know, hyper casual industry, it's pretty recent industry. So at the beginning, like 3 years, 2 years and a half ago, like we were learning along the way with those people. So I think there was great, and there was a great moment for us to also like onboard some people that were at the same stage as us, and then together we moved from step one to step two, and then became what Homa is today, like one of the top publisher in the world for mobile games.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, hyper casual wasn't really a thing back then. I mean, I think that was coined, well, probably a couple, maybe 3 years ago now. But yeah, it wasn't even a thing back then. So it was just normal mobile games, right? Casual or not. So that's an incredible story. I love the fact that you guys all came from, you were within the industry and you thought, hey, why don't we just like seize the moment? The timing sounds good. And what is the sort of values that you have for Homa then? What's your vision for the company in terms of what's the aspirations here?
Yeah, so I think there is a really common vision that we have straight from the beginning. It's and this is what we applied to when we jump into hyper casual and we discovered this industry. There was a lot about the curiosity and the eagerness to learn new things that were about to kickstart, things that was obviously completely new in the industry. So curiosity is one of the big points in the company, and making sure that we're doing always the extra mile to understand what the why and how we can do better, basically.
That's amazing.
And as a company, I think we're also following some very, I would say, very, big pillars for us. The first is we've started with this vision of the revolution of the creation of the content. As you can imagine, it can go beyond hyper casual. It can go beyond a game even at some point. So we're really ambitious and really put all our I would say objectives and maybe like crazy objectives that we could achieve in years to come. So ambition is really something we want to push to every single developers we're talking to, but also every single employee that joined us recently. And the last part is the humility. The humility, I think, personally, I do believe it's one of the most important, especially in industry where I like to say that every Monday morning when you come to the office, there is new things to learn from the weekend, from the previous week. Industry is going so fast that there is new things coming up from technology point of view or to like a creative point of view. So I think we should stay very humble about all the things that we learned the previous week, and just start from scratch like every week and say, okay, I will learn new things this week because I should not consider myself as an expert, and there is again new things to learn this week.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, yeah, I mean this industry more than any that I've ever known just goes like whoosh. You blink, and I love the fact that you said you leave on a Friday and come Monday you're starting again almost sort of. And I think that there's a lot of truth in that. There's always something new to learn, and you could never be a master of this. It just moves at a breakneck speed all the time, and I really love that. And you mentioned there about the offices. Tell us a little bit about the setup. I noticed you've got about 15 jobs that are being advertised right now. Um, how big is the company now? Obviously, you got your base in Paris. Is there anywhere else, or are there plans to expand, or what's your sort of global domination plan there?
Yeah. So right now we're 55 employees. We are mainly based in Paris, our headquarters. Recently, and this is following a move that we're doing since less than a year. We tried to kickstart the development in-house, so not being considered only as a publisher, but also to use all the tools and all the savoir-faire expertise that we have in publishing, and then bring that to people that can be in-house and build our own ideas. This is what we do since the end of last year, and recently actually we hired quite a lot of people in this team, and especially like a team which was based in Toulouse, that actually joined us pretty recently. Toulouse, the south of France, where we decided to open up like a second office. So right now, like most of the people are either working remotely due to the situation, as you know, Kevin,
Sure. Yeah.
and the people are based in Paris or in Toulouse.
Amazing, yeah. So if you're catching this sometime in the future, we're in lockdown here around the world because of Corona. So yeah, that's changed a lot of things. How much of that of an impact has that? Obviously, within the game dev industry, certainly as indies, we're used to, we're set up for the apocalypse, right? We're used to remote work. It's very normal for solo or small teams. How has that impacted you in terms of the way the company's working now?
Honestly, we didn't see any impact on the on the amount of work and on the work delivery inside the company. As you said, everyone in our kind of industry, from a developer to the publishing team to maybe the creative team inside the company, were already educated to those genre of work
Yeah.
systems. So honestly, when this happened, it was just like maybe some organization and a bit of communication. But in terms of like impact on the work, I would say that we were even, I would say, more efficient at the beginning. Now I would say that people are missing the office, and there is things, especially for the creativity, that is important. To be in the office and to exchange with your teammates and exchange with people, draw some stuff on the whiteboard, and this is something that we believe is missing, and we're we can't wait to have everyone back in the office so then we can restart those kind of brainstorming and play a bit around the creativity.
Yeah, I love that because there's just no comparison. While the tech is good with the Zoom and the Skype and whatever you use, there's no comparison of getting people in a room together. There's not that human energy that you get technically, remotely. So yeah, that's really interesting to say, and I love the fact that you can't wait to get back in the office. That obviously says a lot about your culture that you sort of created within Homa Games, that people want to get back and want to work together. And I also like the fact that you said there's something missing, and I think that's really important. It's really necessary to remember that there's no substitute for being in the room together and having that whiteboard to come up with those ideas. It's just a different thing. So I really love that. So in terms of the developers you got in house, are you planning to expand that? Obviously, you're looking. You can never get enough games, but are you planning to double down on like internal development more so? Do you think in the next 12 months?
So first we have some. I would say, as I said at the beginning, we have some big ambition on the creation of the content. We do believe that there is some studios in the publishing side that we basically are super excited to continue to work with them. And actually, the publishing part is something that we will never stop. It's something that brings us a lot of same creativity, challenge, and I do believe that this is where also we're getting a lot of insight from the market by exchanging with those studios that we're talking to on a daily basis.
Sure.
Go back to the internal production. I think it's something that for sure we will double down on, because for now the number of people that we have in this team is very small. We have 6 to 8 people right now, June 2020. We're maybe about to expand this and maybe double this number before the end of the year. But at the end of the year, I do feel that we will stabilize this and then try to deliver the ambition that we put on the paper, which is, as you can imagine, have the first hits that is coming from the studio in Paris or from Paris or Toulouse, and basically learn from that. Make sure that everyone is actually learning from each other inside the team. So it's not only like a question of speed, but it's also like a matter of like building the culture of the internal team, because new people just join. There is a lot of practices, the best practices that are coming from different people, different backgrounds. So I think it takes time. You cannot, even if the industry is going pretty fast, I think we should really make sure to establish like a very strong team first, and then see how we can deliver those this creativity and all those different that we have in the office right now.
Yeah, sure. Because it always takes time to settle in, doesn't it? And find your feet. And even though, as we said earlier, it moves so fast, it takes a level of experience and to be settled within a role to be able to adapt so fast when new things come on. So sounds like a great place to work. I've got to admit. Why do you think Paris is like the epicenter of hyper casual?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I received this question like a few days ago again. I mean, also one thing I wanted to add first before answering this question is
Sure.
that we have this spirit, and I do feel that it's something quite special we have in the company is that even if we're based in Paris and Toulouse now, we have more than 15 or 16 different nationalities. The common language here in the office is English, and we don't want to consider ourselves like as a super French company. Basically, it's something that brings a lot of value as well on people that have different backgrounds, different they grow up in different countries. So at the end of the day, it brings like a lot of good understanding of at the end of the day what is our target, the end users. And it's really important for us because there is obviously a lot of difference from users that are, I don't know, in China, in Australia, in the US or Mexico. You can have some different user behaviors. So it's something that we really want to double down and make sure that we keep this culture, which is international culture. And to answer your first question regarding the basically why Paris might be seen as like the place to be for mobile gaming right now. I do feel that historically speaking, like those two big giants, which are UB and Gameloft,
Yeah.
brought like a lot of brains that were educated about the market in Paris, but also internationally. So it brought like a lot of people that were aware of this industry, aware of the good practices, and also excited to launch new project and launch the next wave of mobile gaming. So I think it's a good start. And then I guess the fact that some historical company in hyper casual such as Ketchup or Voodoo that were actually also based in Paris, push this. Push this further. We, especially in Paris now, we all know kind of each other, and this, I think, at the end of the day, should not be seen as a pure competition, but also as I would say, a place to be in the industry where actually we're sharing to each other some learnings to actually try to kill it in terms of success in the industry altogether. So yeah, I think a nice spirit from day one between these different competitors in Paris, where we had nice habits to to learn together, and then to actually expand our companies together. So great spirit, and obviously like historical companies that help.
That's really cool. I mean, that's really, it's almost counterintuitive because the nature of the hyper casual is just like being quite secretive and getting the first prototypes out to market first. So that's kind of interesting to hear that you're almost not necessarily sharing everything and going around each other's houses for tea, but essentially you're quite open. And do you think, is there a scene there then? Is that what you're saying? There's kind of like a scene.
Yeah, I think there is a scene, or actually, I feel there is one. Maybe there is some people that maybe don't want to be part of it or want to keep all those secrets, but I feel I'm part of one, and I do feel that it's the spirit that we want to share inside the company at Homa. We need to discuss with people which are in the industry or maybe outside of the industry to keep being creative, keep innovating. Yeah, so I think there is one, and yeah, and I definitely think that from day one. People that were excited to share. We've in Paris, we've actually exchanged like a lot of information to actually help each other to grow. Obviously, Kevin, it's we were not sharing ideas. We
Sure.
were not sharing like trends that we were spotting because it's, as you know, it's the diamond of the industry. We're all trying to get that. However, there is many things to learn around this that obviously are very important as well, and that was what I was talking about in terms of knowledge sharing.
Yeah, got you. So I love the spirit of that. It's really, I hadn't really considered that there would be a scene, but obviously we see all the big companies, historically, like I said, Ketchup, obviously Voodoo and countless others. All you look at the bottom of their website, it says Paris, and you just think, what is happening in Paris? And one thing I did want to quickly say before I forget, you said there's plenty of different nationalities within Homa. What is the language of the office then? Is it English, or how does that all work?
Yeah, yeah, of course, it's English. So main language is English. We have, I think we have, I mean, many different nationalities. I guess there is some people there. We have like a lot of Chinese speaker, but also Russian speaker, Spanish speaker. So there is sometimes, I have to admit, there is sometimes some specific discussion with those people in Spanish, in Russian, and in Chinese.
Sure.
However, yeah, the common language for communication inside the company is English.
That must get really confusing and quite a challenge sometimes.
I don't think so. I mean, it can be a challenge for us French people, where we tend to believe that French people, our English is not so good. So maybe it's a little bit challenge for French people, but like no, I think it's going pretty smoothly.
It always amazes us English people, native English speakers, that people say that their English isn't so good, and yet we're massively, I don't know if it's arrogance or laziness or what, but we can't ever speak any other language for the most part. So it's amazing. Your English is fantastic. It's amazing. So listen, that's really interesting. Thanks for filling us in on that. I love hearing a bit of background. Let's go on to now part of the processing of the publishing process, I should say. Whereas, most people watching this are going to be game developers. They're looking for that deal. And now, obviously, with the emergence of probably really the last 12, 18 months, there is so many publishers that have come out that all offer very similar things in terms of, when we look at the charts, we can see that the UA skills are there, and therefore we know that they can push games. So talk us through a little bit now. What happens when I go onto homagames.com and I've got a game that I want to show you? Talk us through the process of how that all works from like day one, minute one.
Yeah, sure. So basically, let's take as an example someone that built like a game over the weekend, which is most of the time the case. On Monday morning, we receive like a higher number of requests, and you go on our website and you just submit your game or submit your project. That could be like just like a drawing on a paper, or that could be like a final prototype. And you go on the website and you just like send us a request by giving your email address, your name, and then the name of the prototype with some information about it. Then it comes straight to us. We receive a request. We allocate this request to the different publishing managers that we have in the company based on different things. Obviously, the main one is the language and the nationality, because sometimes there is, I would say, a better fit when someone is speaking the same language.
Yeah.
And the second part is also what we consider is the most important, is the amount of work that the publishing manager are handling. We do care a lot of having publishing managers that focus only on few numbers of studio, maximum 8, to make sure that we provide the right services. So depending on this, then people will actually handle the request that we receive from new developers. And then we will hop on a quick call or kickstart the discussion to understand why, how, and discuss a little bit about the prototype.
Got you. So what really struck me there is that I could send you a picture, like a drawing of my idea. Is that what you're saying? So we can go on there and say, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think? Or would that be more from someone who you've already dealt with? If it's my first thing, it's our first point of contact with each other, I couldn't just send you something on the back of a napkin saying, this is my idea, what do you think? Or what would you prefer?
Yeah,
would
exactly.
you prefer a video normally, or would a drawing do?
I mean, for me, like whatever type of format is it, we actually don't really care right at the beginning. What we need to understand is that if there is a fit between like the person, if we believe we're sharing the same value and we're going to work at the same pace and together. So that's more like a personal fit, which is important again, especially when you see that you will partner with this person for months, maybe years sometimes.
Sure.
And then in terms of idea, I told you straight from the beginning, we're really thinking that there is a new era of content creation. And we believe that even like a piece of paper with just like a small drawing and the idea could be like the starting point of a discussion. And then, of course, leading that to building like a game and an experience together.
That's amazing. As I've never heard of that before. I would, historically, we've been in this business for a long time, and it always used to be the reverse. You could never get a publisher to look at anything, and obviously, like I said, in the last 18 months, it seems the tables have turned, and the publishers are falling over themselves daily to reach out to developers to ask them if they want to test games. I mean, my inbox gets about 6 emails a day, and I'm not saying that to show off or anything. It's just everyone's the same. Everyone's getting cold pitched by the publishers like yourselves. That's amazing. So when that submission comes in, say I sent you a sketch and say, look, I've got this idea. It's not really formulated yet. Do you then go and sort of check out who's sending it? Is there anything that you guys do there? Say it gets John in publishing's only got 6 games. He can take a look at this one. Will John then go and have a look and say, well, let's go and have a look at their website. Who is this guy? Or do you just take it on face value?
Yeah, so it's a good point. It's what I told you is like the fit and the assessing the quality of development of the studio that we're talking to is very important. And it's why we're going to opt straight away on a call to understand the person, because you can have someone that have been building games for 20 years, but you can have someone that have been building games since like 6 months since he joined his school. And we will take those different information and try to understand if at the end of the day it's fitting what we're looking at. What we're looking at, I told you, it's matching our value. It's someone that is super curious, have a lot of ambition, and also very humble about new things coming up every week in the industry.
I love it.
That's the first step. Obviously, if there is already some content created and that we can see on the store, that's even better because it's easier for us to assess. But we don't want to restrict our qualification of studio if there is no content yet created, because at the end of the day, again, it's a partnership. Is the bet that you will put on someone, and it's very important to assess not only the quality already of the production, but also the person and the studio that you're talking to.
I love it. That's amazing. I really love that. And it's just like, let's not. It might be like loose right now, but they might have something that. I love the fact that you're open to like anything, and I think that's really powerful for a publisher to like. Hold on a minute. This might not be the thing, but they've got some background, or they look like they've got something, and you try and nurture that and try and work further. So I really like that. So I've sent you my video or my picture or whatever. You've gone and said, right, Kevin looks all right. Let's have a chat. What happens then? Do you talk us through a little bit of the next stage? And obviously, depending whether it's just a video or a prototype, what's the next stage from there?
Yeah. Sure. So as you said, it really depends on the content that we see. Depending on how the content is finished or polished, we will take some different action. If we believe that the game is not ready to be tested, then we will work together to actually improve it. We have some different skills and tools inside the company that help you out to actually go in the right direction. And on the other side, if we believe the content is already ready to be tested, as you know, it's pretty common in the industry, we will pass this prototype through our platform, which is called the Homa Lab. It's what we call like easy access platform that you can log in on via the web and then submit your game. And then we will, as you know, spend a little bit of money on user acquisition and try to gather some users and try to gather some point of data. The point of data that are the most interesting, not surprising, are the session length, the retention day 1, day 3, day 7 maybe at the beginning, potentially the split between male and female, all those kind of data that are very important for us to actually assess the game, but also assess the potential and maybe the potential how we could provide recommendation to the developer afterwards.
Got ya. So let's talk a little bit about the KPIs then, because obviously we've seen historically they were really high, and it was almost unicorn hunting from the likes of the Voodoos and stuff. They wanted really high day 1 retention, and really low CPI. What are the sort of things that you're looking for? If you can share some of the numbers. And we've seen over the last, I'm going to say 4 to 5 months now, the flip from CPI testing to CTR testing, where we're basically just making a video to see if we can get, the 4 to 7% sort of click-through rate. How is Homa dealing with this now? What would be the normal that you guys are doing right now?
Yeah, sure. So again, it really depends on how far we are with the project and how far we went into the creation of this new piece of content. If it's something that is playable, that we have at least 10 to 15 minutes of gameplay, we will test it and do what we generally call a CPI test.
Yeah.
In these cases, we will analyze the data. The most important things for us is to understand how much, basically, what is the return on investment that we will get from this game. Usually, we're trying to target first day one around at 45%, day 7 higher than 10 to 12%, and then from there, we are going into what we call the pre-publishing phase. So we are accelerating and then putting more effort to improve the game. So that is for us quite common. However, we stay extremely flexible on those KPIs because, as you know, you can have some games that have like even higher day one retention rate, but the CPI can be very high.
Sure.
But what's matter the most, it's making sure that we are profitable. And you can have a game that is providing like very high metrics and very high CPI, and it's still profitable. So this is what we're focusing on at the end of the day. It's obviously how much a user will cost us on the user acquisition side, and how much these users will bring in terms of revenue. If we have a decent percentage of profit, then we try to move to what we call pre-publishing, to iterate and try to improve the game together.
Sure.
So that's for the first part, for the CPI part, whenever we have a content ready to be tested. For the CTR, here at Homa, we call it FMV for fast market validation.
Oh, okay.
Not only CTR testing, we're doing a bunch of tests, which are, of course, which include CTR, but we have a bunch of different tests that give us like different KPIs regarding the, I would say, the attractiveness of the content that we're bringing. And depending on those different KPIs, we are eager to move into like a CPI test and maybe work further in the game, or either we're more dropping the idea and the idea around the content that we tested. And taking an example of inside the FMV, when we're doing FMV on Facebook, the CTR that we're trying to target whenever we want to move forward in the development would be around 4% minimum. And higher than 6 to 7% for us, we consider it as really a must go.
Let's go, yeah,
Yeah, that's something that you should take into account. However, again, for us, the FMV process is really something that we're trying to investigate further, because we do believe that for us, it's more like a trend analysis and based on data, and it's not only like only a CTR that can give you an assessment of the content that you created. So really focusing on, again, challenging this part of the publishing and making sure that we're not putting all our I would say decisions only on this CTR.
Got you. Because that I was going to say, what would be the preferred method? Because obviously, as a developer, we could get a 15-20 second video together in like one level. That works better for us to validate our idea. But you're basically saying you can't take one. It's not one or the other. It's just a combination of everything and something. I was trying to get to the point where what would you prefer? What would be the best advice you can give developers at this stage? Should you just look at that CTR video or the FMV video, sorry, or is it still worth building out something that might perhaps have 10-15 minutes of gameplay?
Yeah, it's a really good point. For me, it really depends on the strategy of the studio. There is sometimes you want to take more risks, so you will spend more time building content because you will be confident yourself that actually you cannot do the idea that you have in mind under a few days and do an FMV.
Got ya.
Really, some studios and developers are really confident in the way that in several days and maybe a week they can do something bigger that will actually target bigger metrics. So it's also a matter of mindset. However, whenever someone is like, into the process of like building some videos of 10 to 15 seconds, and then whenever there is a green light, then moving further and then building more content around it. I do think it's a great idea, and I would encourage doing this. The only thing that I would advise is really whenever there is a 10-second videos, to really focus on the juiciness of the toy that you're building, and only this, not caring about anything which is around, because it would be time wasted, I would say.
Yeah.
So in these cases, yeah, for sure, and we're happy to review those kind of 5 to 10 to 15 seconds of gameplay that you guys built, and then pass through the platform Homa Lab via the FMV test, and then look at the different metrics, and then tell you green lights, orange, or red. And we won't, I mean, there is no point for us to tell you like, okay, it's going to be a hit. I think it's just an indicator, and it's just like a green light for you to avoid wasting time on a prototype. So we just want to emphasize on that part to make sure that it should not be like hard KPIs telling you, okay, you will publish the game.
Got ya. Yeah, that's super interesting, and I really love that approach, because it leaves everything open. And I like the way that you said, well, hold on, we've got a seed of an idea. There's no point building like 4 or 5 days worth. Why don't we do the CTR on this one? Or saying, well, we got a good feeling about this one. Let's spend an extra time, and leaving it down to the experience and the gut feel of the studio itself. Now, there's a few points here I want to sort of try and pick up on. You've got a self-service dashboard now. Let's talk a little bit about that. Is that basically a web interface where we upload a video or something and you guys take it from there? Tell us a little bit more about the dashboard.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a tech team here in Paris that have been working super hard on building what we call here the Homa Lab, which is a platform where you can do many different things. The main one, obviously, is like testing and assessing the quality of the content that you guys or the developers build. And in this scenario, there is 2 scenarios. The FMV part, where it's just like testing content out of a video, and the other one, which is testing a content out of an application available on the store. You can just log in inside the platform. Then submit your game with the basic information. So if it's just a video, then MP4 file, which usually lasts no longer than 20 seconds. And on the other side, a link from the store, a game available in all the countries. And then we're happy to test and gather the data inside the platform, so the developer can see after usually 2 to 3 days maximum.
Okay. So when you said all the countries, then, so if I built a game, you're gonna love it. I know you are. Do I publish that in all the countries then, or typically it's US only?
Yeah. So basically, usually it's more like a conversation that you have with the publishing manager. We are not testing only in the US. We're doing some different strategy here. So right at the beginning, we will recommend you to open up the game in some specific countries. So usually.
Okay.
From 2 to 3 countries, including US, of course, and then, of course, ask you if the game is performing well to open up the games to all the countries. This is where Homa is actually it's one of the, let's say, big points and the big strengths of Homa Games today. It's the ability for us to publish and to promote the game in every single country in the world, including China, that we're doing from Paris. So yeah, at the beginning, few countries, and then at the end, if we publish every single country.
That's amazing. So if I've already got a game live, what you're basically saying is that's fine. Just send us a link and we can move on that.
Exactly.
Okay, and just quickly, start it again. So I've got my game. Obviously, you need a video to test it. Do I make that video, or do you have any creatives in-house that would make the video for us, or is it typically assumed that if I have a game live in the store, I'd also provide a video?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Honestly, since day one, we really believe that the service and that the publisher should provide is everything which is outside of Unity. So basically, we are trying to build more and more tools to make sure that our partner can only provide value inside Unity, and whenever you're leaving this, it's our job. So then, to go back to your question, creative obviously is on our side. We have a team that is led by Melissa, here in Paris, just below me, and actually the team here in Paris is building every single creative for every single games that we're testing every week.
Wow.
And now to give you some raw numbers, we're around 50 to 60 games being tested per week. So it's quite a lot of work. However, we really see the value of having this in-house because we can really spot where are the most attractive moments inside the gameplay. And this is where, as you know, the CPI and I would say the way the users that are looking at this gameplay get excited about it. So
sure. Yeah, got you. No, that's great because that's a lot. That's really helpful because what we always say is just like if you haven't got any wow moments in your game, it's not gonna. That's your video, so you need to make sure that you got to look at it objectively. And what I was trying to get at is just like it's really. I kind of blends in. I know we've got like we polled Academy members and we had like 30 questions, so I'm trying to wrap them all into one here. But one of the questions was really, and it links to this, how much support do we get from you in terms of right from the very beginning with the video and dovetailing slightly into say we get past the first green light? How does Homa help the developers in this process and to a certain degree hold our hands?
Yeah, so if I understand correctly the question, so how we help the developer and the studios in the process of like...
That's right. Sorry, there was a lot in there, I know.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's pretty simple. Like it's either the game is available, you send us the link, and then we take it from here. We do the recording, we assess the quality of the content by understanding where are the most exciting and the most, I would say, marketable content inside the app. Then we record that part, and then we try to, with the creative team, to build ads which are obviously very exciting for the user. So I just say like providing the link, and then we take care of everything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So is Melissa playing like thousands of games, like at least 60 games a week, trying to find the good bits? Is that what she does?
Yeah, I mean,
wow.
Melissa is obviously a team of 5 people, so we're quite armed for this. But yes, at the end of the day, they are the one like spotting what they believe is the most interesting and the most exciting part of the content to promote it, and then to make sure that people, again, get excited.
That's a pretty cool job, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean,
that's pretty cool.
Mobile gaming industry where you can't realize how lucky we are to work in this industry compared to potentially other jobs. So
absolutely. We get a little bit complacent sometimes, but it's pretty good fun, and playing games all day, making videos doesn't sound too bad to me. So let's say we get past the green light. Melissa goes, right, that's the bit. We are golden. One of the KPIs have been hit. What happens next then? So do you guide us then, saying, right, this is good, we're seeing these numbers, you've got to get your retention up or it's not going to happen, or you need to change this? How involved are you in the next phase of the development?
So whenever the test is done, so then we collect different type of information. So first, the information about the studio, we try to understand like how long it took the studio to build it, where was the pain point, how can we help, because most of the time we know that developers or studio have some really strength at some point, but also some weakness, and we're trying to help on that part. So we try to understand, okay, how if the metrics are looking good, how can we help as a company to need to move faster? And then, so that's more on the support side. And then on the next step, regarding the improvements of the gameplay, obviously, if this is a green light, obviously we look at the data, understand where we can improve the gameplay overall. We try to look at the different funnels and the different, I would say, user behaviors inside the app. And based on this, take some decision and action about like how we should restructure the app, how we should provide feedbacks, and where we should focus ourselves to make sure that in the next iteration we see like improvements in terms of metrics. I mean, user behavior metrics.
Yeah, that's cool, because a lot of us developers, we're actually looking for that from the publishers, because although we get wrapped in our idea, it's very I'm broad stroking this, but a lot of the time it's very difficult for us to understand the metrics, and I think it's really important for the publishing houses to help us along the way and say, listen, you need to concentrate on this, and more importantly, concentrate on this and why, because that will grow the developers as well, and it's a mutual benefit to both you and the developer then to grow together. And that kind of leads me into what is the sort of hit ratio here. So we've gone through, you help us with the game. What's the sort of, because obviously you get 60 games a week, you said. So out of those 60, let's say there's 250 a month. How many out of those 250 a month will then go on to end up in the Homa account and start to do well, and you start to scale?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. So overall, the way how it goes is that whenever we have this green light and we're trying to iterating, we're trying, and I told you this at the beginning, we're trying to make sure that we're gathering all the data to take the right decision, and on the other side, making sure that we have people, time, and energy and resource to actually try to bring creativity inside the gameplay and build innovation and ideas. This is coming along with only one recipe at Homa. It's what we call the squad. So anytime there is a game that is matching the metrics, we're moving up those games on what we call the pre-publishing, so a phase where we'll work further on the games together. And a squad composed of 4 people, so a publishing manager, a creative manager, a UA and monetization manager, and a game designer will work together on these games specifically to increase the metrics and make sure that the studio that we're working with is getting like the most out of us and the best service. And we believe that this is one of the key components of the success of a nice hit ratio. For us, what we're really focusing on is the ratio between the number of games that we're testing and the number of games that are going into pre-publishing area. This ratio, we're trying to target a percentage of average of 8%, which is considered, I think, in the industry very high. However, we believe that the small number of studios that we're working with per publishing manager, so maximum 8, give us the time and the energy to actually focus on the right thing rather than like doing volumes, but more focusing on the definitely on the studio and trying to bring the best service. So we're more focusing on like lower number of studio providing the best service to try to increase this hit ratio, what we call here the ratio between the test and the pre-publishing.
That's really cool. I love that. I've never heard of that. So at the moment you've got like Squad Skyroller. So you pull in a load of people from all the disciplines and you focus in and you almost make a mini company around that game to dedicate that and make sure that it's like hitting everything to its biggest ability. Is that that's basically the idea, right?
Yeah, exactly. And each squad has their own name. They have their own, I think, maybe.
What are some of the names?
Or I mean, the one for Skyroller is called MIFA, which is actually meaning like in argot in French, family, basically.
And it's
MIFA, and actually they are since this game went into pre-publishing, meaning I think last October 2019. So altogether, it's been like more than 7 months now, 8 months that they are working to go from testing to pre-publishing to like publishing, and then now continue to increase the juiciness of this game, and maybe at some point like having the game having like a way longer lifetime and many other content inside the application. So yeah,
that's incredible. Great game, by the way. Who comes up with those names? Is it you, or is it a collective thing?
I have to be honest, Kevin, I don't remember. And most of the time, from like looking at the historical data of the company, most of the time the name of the games are coming from the developers of the studios.
Oh, I know. So, I meant the squads. Who comes up with the squad names?
Oh, sorry. It's the squad themselves. So here it's all together. They actually we create this squad whenever Skyroller moved to pre-publishing, and then all together they had to create like a Slack channel and then a team, and then all together they came out with this thing.
Got ya. Well, that's great, because that leads me on to the next thing that I almost forgot. Is Slack, is that the communication channel that you use rather than Skype or anything? So as a developer, I'd be invited to a Slack channel.
Yes and no. Actually, Slack is one of our biggest community right now because it's the most common tool used by the developer.
Yeah.
However, we stay very flexible on the habits of the studios they're working with. And I have to be honest, I think Slack, we have also WeChat, Telegram, and maybe, I don't know, maybe sometime WhatsApp as well. So we have, and Skype, of course. Those ones are different channel of communication we have, and based and depending on the studio's habits and also needs, we're actually being flexible on that part.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. So let's get into some of the juicy sort of things, which I'm sure everybody wants to know. Let's just throw it out there. What is the rev share split for the developer? Because obviously, as Homa Games, you need to be making money, but as a developer, that is one of the key ingredients, and all this other stuff is massive as well. I don't want to downplay the fact that you support us and you look after us. That sounds fantastic, and I think it's really encouraging to hear. But at the end of the day, they want to know, show me the money. So what's the deal here? Is there any special deals, or do you have a blanket deal? Tell us a little bit about the financial side of things.
Yeah, and I think it's obviously like the big question anytime we're discussing with the developer. So please, Kevin, do not hesitate to ask me any question to make it clear. I think the clearer it, the better, I think.
Cool.
For us at Homa, I told you we're trying to put ourselves as a service provider when we're working as a publishing house. So depending on the amount of work that we're providing and the amount of service that we're providing, it include. I mean, there is a cost in front of it. So what we consider is that as a company, in terms of profit sharing to the developer, we're providing up to 50% without any cap, to give some details. And to determine if it's like up to 50% or maybe decreasing the profit for the developer, it's really a matter of like services that we're providing. Most of the time now, the developers are requesting some payment to share the development cost.
Yeah.
And whenever this is happening, obviously it's a bigger risk that the company is taking on top of the service that they're providing. So then we will decrease this profit sharing depending on the amounts per prototype or per month that we're providing to the developer. However, whenever there is a studio coming up to us and providing a prototype that he has built like on his own and want to publish it with us, and if he has the chance to get published, we're doing a 50-50 profit sharing without any cap.
Got ya. That's cool. That's cool, because that makes more sense. It's always been a little strange to me that we'll do a 70-30, and it's just like, well, hold on a minute. That's great and all, but it never seems fair. And I think the only fairness you can do is the 50-50, because obviously you bring huge amount of value, but we bring the product. And I think that accounts for a lot. And it's really lovely to hear that the 50-50 is sort of like the standard thing there. And obviously what you're saying is if you're ending up doing more than normal, then that has to be reflected in the deal. But that should, in theory, work both ways, so you will be getting more for the deal from a developer side of things.
Exactly.
That's really cool. So if I start, say, I'm just going to roll that back a little bit, because there's something I did forget, and I want to, if we don't hit that green light, do we have to sign a contract with you guys straight away, or how does that work?
Obviously, whenever we are testing together, we're just like a basic contract such as an NDA that we're signing together to make sure that the information provided stay between us. But if your question is linked to the fact that the game should be locked to the publisher, so Homa Games in this case, there is nothing like this. So
Right.
basically, whenever we test the game, then we want to have, of course, the prior to the decision. But basically, if we say actually we're not interested and we want to move further to other title, you're free to go, and then we're happy to see our friends from the industry being more excited maybe about this game if they test it also. So no worries.
Oh, that's a fantastic way of putting it. I love that. So yeah, so basically, if we test for you and go, actually, it's not going to happen with us because it's just not meeting it or whatever, you can then go and self-publish it or do what you want with it. We're not locked in for months on end, and we just built something that we can't do anything with, which definitely used to be the case with some other publishers that I know, which I always found pretty bizarre, to be honest. What's the sort of I'm not sure if we if we really got to the bottom of this. So out of those 250 a month, let's put it a different way. We're in June 2020, pretty much the middle of the year. How many titles have you guys published this year?
Yeah. So the objective for the company is to publish around 2 titles per month.
Right.
The beginning of the year, we're a little bit below this for one reason. It's the fact that we released a title that has a huge that had a huge impact for the company. The title with Hasbro that we released recently.
Yeah, Nerf. Yeah.
And this is obviously like something that's currently having a huge impact for the company on many different aspects, because it required, of course, like way more resources, way more time, way more efforts for the whole teams. But also at the end of the day, what we're getting now, it's like your reward. So usually, to answer the question, we're heading to 2 games per month that we're trying to publish, and depending on the workflow and depending on the size of the project, we're sometimes increasing or decreasing this.
Got ya. So let's talk a little bit about that. So Hasbro, you teamed up with Nerf Epic Pranks. We love that game as well, by the way. How did that come about? Was that a biz dev thing from your side, or did they approach you? Are you able to tell us a little bit about that? Oh, looks like we've locked up here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kevin. I have some issue with my connection. Can you just repeat the
Yeah,
question?
of course. Don't worry. It only went down for a little bit. I was just saying that obviously with Nerf Epic Pranks, you teamed up with Hasbro. Was that a biz dev side of things that you actively sought out, or did they approach you? And I was just wondering, just a little bit curious about how that came about and whether or not you have more plans to do like license IP in the future.
Yeah, sure. So just to give you some context about the situation with Hasbro, as a company, we try to be as transparent as possible in this kind of interview, Kevin. And Hasbro deal is something that is quite heavy, and there is maybe some information I won't be able to.
Of course, sure.
But to answer your question, it's actually us that basically wanted to move into this area last year. We really wanted, at the end of the day, it's to follow a little bit our vision. We really wanted to actually play a little bit with this new type of content creation, and then apply some, extra, I would say, extra diamond into those kind of new content. And obviously, IP is something that we definitely wanted to dig into straight from the beginning. We were actually waiting for the right people and the right, again, mindset, because as you know, it's a three-parted collaboration, and we need to be everyone needs to be very flexible in this collaboration. So we need all to make a lot of efforts. And when we actually met Hasbro, talking about the brand Nerf, that was obvious for us that the way they were seeing like hyper casual, but also the way we're tackling the hyper casual and the content creation in this genre, for them was definitely a match since day one when we kickstarting the discussion. So then it was just a matter of like understanding the guidelines, the vision, maybe going into more details about the vision and the vision of the product that we wanted to release. And honestly, it went pretty smoothly because they were actually super flexible on the way we could use the brand inside our games and apply it to like a different environment. So Nerf Epic Prank is the first title that we released with them like now 2 months ago. And actually, I'm super happy to tell you that we will have more to come very soon, because again, there is so much to do in this with this brand, and if we bring a little bit of data that we're collecting from Nerf Epic Prank, a little bit of creativity, and of course a little bit of backstory of this brand with many different assets which are amazing. Yeah, there is many things that we can do and that we can come up with. So really looking forward to see what's coming up next with Nerf.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's a great game as well. We enjoyed that a ton. That is a good, fun game, and it was really interesting to see that IP being used. It's something we saw a little bit with Ketchat, with a bit of Bruce Lee and Prince of Persia maybe, but we haven't really seen any sort of the bigger publishers lean into the IP. So it was really good to see doing something slightly different. So I really enjoyed that game. Got a good score here as well. All right. So where do you see the hyper casual sort of thing going right now? Obviously, we've seen, the big guns of app loving launch Lion Studios, and more recently, Supersonic from Iron Source.
Yeah.
Where do you see your Homa Games fitting and pitching against those guys? And are you taking a different slant on the market? And where do you think the market's going?
Yeah, I think on that part, we're still very, very exciting about this industry and this market. We consider our friends from Supersonic or Lion being one competitor like others. At the end of the day, what we consider competitors, it's every single people that is building content on mobile application. It
Well,
can go
okay.
from TikTok to of course the game from Supersonic to Voodoo to Ubisoft. So at the end of the day, our goal is really to jump into this industry and try to create like some amazing experience inside mobile apps from hyper casual and maybe tomorrow other genre. So at the end of the day, the fact having Iron Source and Applovin jumping into this business, it's not surprising and it's not changing at all the way we see it. As you know, it's all about the content straight from the beginning. So whatever the size of your company, if from the beginning you are like mastering the content creation, then running the promotion and the steps that are coming up afterwards, we basically believe that we're building the right technologies to promote those contents on the right way and make the most out of it. However, everything should go back to the innovation that you're bringing to the content. And this can be like a one-man show. For example, for us, it could be Studio Rulo, which is a developer which is alone that have published 4 games with us. Or it could be, let's say, as an example, the guy that built Flappy Bird. He's alone.
Sure.
However, there is also on the other side some people that have a workforce of 200, 300 people building games. But on those different examples that I just quoted, at the end of the day, it's the same story. It's like the success of catching the eyes and the time of people inside the mobile app experience. And this is where we want to innovate. And we don't believe like it's a threat to have other friends that we call not competitors, other friends into the business.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, at the end of the day, you're just trying to concentrate on being the best company you can be, and your products and your marketing skills will speak for itself, no doubt. Do you think I mean, hyper casual is pretty much just casual these days. We seen it's gone a long way in the last 18 months of returning more to a casual sort of thing. Do you have any preference of what you'd like to see, or do you ever give any ideas to developers that you work with? Do you ever do anything like that? Like, do you give us, you say, Kevin, I like your idea, but actually we're seeing that if you build something like this, you might have a better chance.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point. For us, on our hand, we really see that as at a path that you follow. Basically, depending on the skills and on the objective of the developers, it will kickstart by different type of project. If it's something that is really really like what we can call right now ultra casual, so one simple mechanic that is mostly focusing on the appealing of the content, but also like the juiciness. We will for sure motivate our partner to work on that direction, but also make sure that he's focusing on the right things. And in those kind of games, it's obviously like the focus on the feedbacks that we're getting and that retranscribe the juiciness of the gameplay. On the other side, if there is a developer that want to have something bigger experience, what we could call in hyper casual, sometimes super casual or hybrid casual, we definitely encourage him to go in this direction, because there is also many opportunities on that side. And what we will focus our energy and our time, it's obviously the juiciness of the gameplay, but also like the level design and the way we're making sure that the users can have like enough content to live from not only few levels and few days inside the game, but making sure that we concentrate our effort on making sure that the experience and the progression of the experience, it's definitely longer than an ultra casual experience.
That's great. That's great. So essentially, you're just like, if you can see potential in something, you're just going to lean into that and just try and make it. You got no sort of massive preference. Sorry, excuse me. You got no massive preference of what sort of thing you're going to be outputting. It's just if it hits the numbers and you feel there's the appetite for it. Listen, I've just looked up, and I know time's getting on. It's been absolutely amazing, and I know I'm really conscious that I don't keep you any longer than I can. So I'm going to start to sort of wind that down a bit. I mean, we've covered a hell of a lot of ground here today, and I really appreciate you being so candid and open about the process there. And it's amazing to hear from one of the guys at the top how the culture of the company and how you want to work with us, the developers, to join that partnership and make it equally profitable, which is absolutely amazing. Now, one thing I do want to just touch on quickly. I've got a list of 30 questions. I've not looked at any of them yet, but that's not unusual for anyone who knows when I talk to people. We're massive fans, like I said. We've loved Skyroller, love Nerf Epic Prank, and not forgetting Boost Jump from Academy member Chris, who is a fantastic guy. So there's definitely, and I'm personally a bit of a fan of Dig Dog. I know it's a bit controversial, but I really like that game. Are you going to put yourself out there and say what is your favourite Homa Games published title?
Sure, I will for sure. It's for me, I mean, I would take it as a personal experience and where I learned the most inside the company, and it's definitely the last title that we published with Hasbro Nerf Epic Prank, because the level of the level of information and learnings that we got from these games and from this experience, like the publishing experience around this game, was really above everything we had in the past. And it's great because it's following a little bit our path since day one, where every single games that we published, we learned like a ton of new things. But like Nerf having an IP integrating inside an app, it's something that we believe is really innovative in the hyper-casual industry and something that is new. So we believe that we have something, we're providing something extra to the industry, something that differentiates ourselves. And this is something, and as you know, something available for any single studio that is talking to us, ability to work with Nerf, but also with other IP that we have. I won't be able to quote them here.
Sure, no problem.
I'm doing that with the studio that we have some specific agreement with, but we believe that in the future, IP could be like also an added value in all those kind of new experience that we're providing to the users. And yes, because of this, like Nerf Epic Prank has been the one I enjoyed the most on a daily basis, not only playing, but also working on, because many things to grasp and to learn out of it.
So on a personal level, do you feel that you feel like Homa Games as a company leveled up by doing that game? Is that what you're saying? You felt like you've turned something, you did something a little bit special?
I think that every single games we've released like 18 games since we started. I think that every single games that we published, one by one, we learned like a lot of new things along the way. And every time was on a different field, like game design, UA monetization, and different areas. However, yes, the last part, the last one, Nerf Epic Prank, was of course a game where we learned like way more on every single aspect, and bringing this IP out inside this gameplay, leverage every single part of the business and every single area of the company, and brought new things, new ideas, new processes, and obviously new opportunities in the future. So definitely.
Yeah, that's amazing, and congrats! It's a great game, and we love great games here at the Academy. So we're going to wrap that up. I know we've been chatting for ages now, and like I said, I don't want to keep you any longer. The last thing I need to say is that where can we get in touch with you? What's the best place to get hold of Olivier and say thank you for spending the time with us today? And where can we send our games to? And what's the best way to connect with Homa Games?
Yep. So the best way to connect with Homa Games is obviously the website and submit the game. We're wrapping up this every morning to check out what's new. And discussing with new developers that want to join the company, the partnership. So that's for the games and the company. If you want to get in touch with me, I would say that there is two ways. First, email. So my email address is olb@homagames.com. or LinkedIn, where I'm pretty active because there is many developers like sharing learnings and discussing over there. So you can just add me and just ping me there. So that would be the best way to connect with me.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we link all that up down below. And thanks for sharing your personal contact details there. Listen, Olivier, it's been an absolute pleasure for me. I've really enjoyed our time. I'm really glad to hear the success of Homa. And we're, like I said, we are big fans. I'm not trying to just to be, stroke you a little bit too much, but we really love your stuff and thrilled you took the time out to join us and explain the process today. And hopefully you'll get some people in touch. And we can't wait to see what Homa Game release next. So with all that said and done, thank you very much, sir. And we'll speak soon, I hope.
Thank you, Kevin. No, really, I want to also emphasize the fact that you are doing like an amazing job at actually educates developers that we're talking to on a daily basis. It's really something that we see 2 years ago, like many information were maybe not displayed or not available. You are a center of content and information, and these bring like a lot of value to us. Also, you're sharing the same value as us, which is the transparency. So there is every single question that we can ask. So really appreciate it, Kevin. And I know there is many people, including Johan here in the office, that is a huge fan of the forum and on the different discussion that's happening on the forum. So again, thank you actually for the work and making this industry and this business like going into the right direction. So thank you so much.
Yeah, well, no, I appreciate that. That's always good to hear. So thank you. And I need to hit him up because I want to have a chat with him about all things game design. So really excited to push that forward as well. But like I said, we better wrap this up. So once again, thank you, Olivier. Been such a pleasure, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye, Kevin. I was actually, I brought, in the office, we receive a lot of stuff from Nerf and Hasbro. I wanted to show you a little bit the different. The different stuff we received. But I did not have the time or the opportunity to show you this, but we have all the blasters that you have in the we're playing with this in the office recently. That's actually a good time here to live in the company.
So you have plenty of fights.
Yeah. I mean, you cannot imagine like how many guns.
Oh, I can actually, yeah.